Hello friends, good morning. Welcome to Astra. This is v.dhanunjayareddy bringing you the daily current affairs from the Hindu for prelims as well as for mains from the Hindu newspaper, that is on 16th of March 2023. So let's quickly discuss this. On the front page, you are seeing the college, which are very important articles from today's newspaper. So let's quickly start with the first page. Exports fall 8.8%, trade deficit shrinks over 7%. This is the first thing. Recently, the Ministry of Commerce has released data telling that exports have fallen in the country. Now, what exactly is the things that you have to know? What is trade deficit? Trade deficit is the imbalance between your export value minus import value. If import value is greater than export value, then you will have trade deficit. So this will be studied under balance of payments. In balance of payments, there are two things: current account and capital account. In the current account, there are two things: visibles and invisibles. In the visibles, you have goods. In the invisibles, there will be services, incomes, and transfers. So services and goods together are called as balance of trade, right? So there you'll study this. So exports fall 8.8%. So this is something bad for the country, because for any country, exports has to be more and imports has to be less. Then there will be more forex resource for the country. That is the only thing that you have to remember from this. So narrowing deficit, India's trade deficit narrowed by 7.04% in February 2023 compared to the same in the month of 2022. So they are comparing between 2022 and 23. However, we have narrowed our deficit, though it has contracted this month. It can be seen that the trade deficit is narrowing between February 2023 and the so-called February 2022. That is the thing. Next, governor cannot precipitate the fall of an elected government, says Supreme Court. Now, this is hearing the case related to Maharashtra politics between Eknath Shinde faction versus the ex-chief minister of Maharashtra, right? That is Uddhav Thackeray. These two people went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said that governor cannot precipitate the fall of elected government. Now, what has happened in Maharashtra? If you recall what we have already discussed in Maharashtra, right, there was a faction, or there is one party called Maha Vikas Aghadi, MVA party, in which the Shiva Sena, Indian National Congress and NCP were together. Now, Shiva Sena had a pre-poll alliance with BJP, but after winning, they have aligned with the rival parties, that is opposition parties of NCP and Indian National Congress. Now, after being there for almost 3 months, Shiva Sena was divided into two. One is led by Uddhav Thackeray's faction, the other one is Eknath Shinde's faction. Now, Eknath Shinde faction approached the governor of Maharashtra to say that the state government lost majority and to convey for a floor test. What is floor test? To test the confidence of the house, whether you are having the required strength or not. Now, governor has listened to this Eknath Shinde faction and he has called for floor test. Now, this is being questioned by Supreme Court, saying that how can governor call for the floor test based on some party members? This is what Supreme Court said. And after calling to the floor test, he has lost his majority to Uddhav Thackeray, and then Eknath Shinde is in power. Now, the question that Supreme Court is asking is, how can a faction which is together, because Maha Vikas Aghadi was formed 3 years earlier, they were in power for almost 2.5 years, how could they lead to faction? Why they left the party? This is because of political gains, they left the party. Now, because of the political gains, if someone is disturbing the party and if they are making the government to fall, then governor is precipitating, or governor is trying to act as a catalyst in this entire game. So governor cannot do this. So this is what being questioned, and but the question always remains: who can call for a floor test? Right, governor. It is by the end, it is the governor who can call for the floor test of the assembly if he thinks that there is no confidence in the house. The only question here is about defection. So it is an updating news. We can regularly follow it, as we have been following it for many years, many months. Telangana State Public Service Commission cancels the assistant engineer civils exam after civil engineering, exam after question paper leak. We all know this. We have made a separate video on this. So that is the thing which is happening. After this, intermediate based exams have started in Hyderabad or in Telangana state. That is something that we have to remember. Next one is another round of discussions on women reservation bill will be held, says Kavita. The MLC from Telangana has launched an agitation reserving or asking for women's reservation bill. Now today there was a beautiful article on how women reservation bills is going to be implemented or how the challenges were taking place. Next one is going to the south page, privilege motion against MLA daily, MLA. So today it is against in Andhra Pradesh Assembly, the opposition leaders has crossed with the privileges. Some privilege motion is going to be on this member because he has said that wrong facts on the house. So whenever you say some wrong information on the house and if you are trying to mislead the house, then privilege motion could be taken place. With a nod for water aerodrome in Kochi, Kerala inches closer to seaplane dream. So this is the thing. Civilization will be including the Cochin port for seaplane project. That is the thing that we have to understand. Next one is Brahmapuram, a policy game changer for Kerala. Now this article has written about again the same fire accidents that has taken place at the Brahmapuram landfill site. Now the question here is, already we have discussed this in depth about yesterday itself, what are the things that we have taken place. So please refer to that article rather than this article. This article is very in depth, but the thing is we do not have the substance for UPSC that is useful. So go with the yesterday's article itself. Lessons learned. RBI should ensure banks are protected from global contagion mismanagement. This is from the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. Now, what is the special about Silicon Valley Bank? Silicon Valley Bank was present in that area where there were tech giants like Google, Facebook, Twitter. These people are operating in that area. Hence, Silicon Valley Bank has played a very crucial role. And it has been lending to many startups. And it has also invested in US government treasury bonds. Despite this, Silicon Valley Bank has failed. Why? Because it has allowed the cryptocurrency issuers to trade on them. So, because of this cryptocurrencies, the entire Silicon Valley Bank has been in debacle. As a result, what lessons that India has to learn from this? India has to learn a lesson that whenever there is some global crisis like this, which is going to happen, our bank should be free from this contagion to be spreading, just like COVID-19 as it spread. So recently we have seen Hindenburg report making our stocks to tumble down. Similarly, Silicon Valley Bank. So the only thing is it has been giving some money to the enabled cryptocurrencies and digital assets. As a result, it was failed. So what RBI has to do? RBI already said that in order to ensure that the banks are stable from external fluctuations, you should have investment fluctuation reserve. There should be some reserve, just like CRR, cash reserve ratios, statutory liquidity ratios, capital reserves. You should also have IFR, investment fluctuation reserve. This was set by RBI way back in the year 2018. This may be like a buffer or a counter cycle to insulate the Indian lenders from external risks. So this was proposed by the RBI. This might be a prelims question. Hence RBI should look proactively into these type of issues which will safeguard India from external things. The sharp divides AUKUS pact should not serve as a deterrent and not exacerbate the conflict. Now we all know this. AUKUS is Australia, UK and US coming together and they are forming some military pact in the Indo-Pacific region. Now it is telling that this has to be a deter. It should not exacerbate the activities, rather it should deter. Deter means it should be just like a balance of power to the China, but not an instigator or provocation of China or other countries in the region. Now, what are the three major tools that AUKUS is focusing on? AUKUS is focusing on to train the Australian personnel of military and increase their port visits, to ensure that Australia is giving nuclear powered submarines. And the third one is they are focusing on something called building up a combined nuclear submarine in the region. So one is increasing the strength of Australia military personnel. Second one is giving them the nuclear submarines. Together they are going to have, all three navies are going to launch one submarine. Now, this is because recently UK President or UK Prime Minister has clearly said that the world global order is in challenge because of the Russia-Ukraine war, because of the China's growing assertiveness and destabilizing behavior of Iran and North Korea. So they are targeting these countries and they are telling that we should have a alternative for this, and that will be AFFIARS as per this gentleman. However, what is China's retaliation? China retaliated to that if you are going on a dangerous path, no one can stop you from derailing, and we are ready to confront with the US at any point of time. Now, this also raises pertinent questions related to nuclear proliferation in the region. Next one is concerns regarding the non-proliferation treaty, because all these members, Australia, US, UK, are the members of non-proliferation treaty. Now, if Australia is getting submarines, who is going to handle it? That is the thing. However, India has maintained its silence on this. So, India being a voice of the global south, it has to ensure that this type of AUKUS announcement do not exacerbate the sharp divides that is existing between US-led allies and Russia, China combined, and proves to be deterrent rather than accelerating global conflict. So, India has to ensure that this is not crossing beyond the line of deterrence to accelerating the war. So this is what it was said. So only these things that I have underlined, that is important. Next one, China, India and the promise of the power of the two. So the power of Asian century. This was written by Mazia, People's Republic of China Embassy. So she works for the embassy in India. Now, what she says is how India-China relationships are there. Obviously, she will be speaking on behalf of China, and she will be speaking on how we can build good relations with this. So recently, India is in the limelight because of heading two organizations with the presidencyships of SCO and Z20 particularly. At the same time, China is also advancing and modernizing in all fronts. So it is in the best interest that there are common prosperity for all, material and cultural advancements between us, and harmony between humanity and nature and peaceful development should be present. For all these things, both countries has to come together. Now, what does this mean? India and China together have 2.8 billion population, and both China and India are representing developing countries and emerging economies. Hence, there is some converging issues between India and China. So that converging issues will make this century a great century. Now, what are the recent success of China? As per this person, there were 4 points that have highlighted Chinese victory so far. One is steady growth rate that the China has seen over the period of time, which is around 5.2% annual growth. The second one is it is focusing on the welfare of the people. The third one is opening up to the other countries, and the fourth one is win-win cooperation. So in the trade lines, in the social development parameters, in the bilateral relationships, as well as in the economic front, China has successfully attained its power. So regarding this, as China is on a very modernizing scale, both India and China should collaborate to benefit from each other. For example, in the trade aspects, the trade between India and China has already crossed $135 billion in 2022. So this is the important thing. $135 billion of trade is existing between India and China. However, this is in favor of China. We all know this because India has huge trade deficit with China. Second one is both Chinese market is open to India, and if Indian market is open to China, then definitely both can have some good market access to each other, and then investments can propel, and non-discriminatory business environment should propel. This is what she is telling. Next one is all this will contribute to the Asian century that our external affairs minister Mr. Jaishankar is telling. So 2022, he said that the Asian century will happen with China and India comes together. Now this is the coordination that India and China has to have. So a very quick analysis about how India and China can prosper. So she is telling what are the 4 domains in which China has seen some tremendous growth, particularly coming from the so-called bilateral relations, trade relations, opening up its economy, and then economic performance and social performance that it has shown over the period of time. So this is what she is speaking. A sustainable model for women's leadership. Another good article was written on how women in India can be grown or empowered to the leadership position. Sustainable model. What is the sustainable model for this? So it is said that in the world today we have almost 900 million adolescent girls, and they form a major part of the future of work and growth. Next. So given the socio-economic barriers in the adolescent girls, they have to work for their cultivate their agency for education systems to expose their new skill sets. Critical thinking and leadership qualities must begin early. As this woman is coming into the workforce, we have to focus on their cultivate their agency. What is cultivating their agencies? Develop their human capacity, develop their social capacity, and develop their political as well as economic capacity. Then that is going to give them the agency or the voice to speak on behalf of themselves. So coming to this, India is one of the largest generations who are girls here, and Government of India has particularly focused on many of the important aspects that is important for women, ranging from education. It has focused on their health. It is focusing to bridge the digital and financial divide that is present between men and women along with their inclusion policies. And then it is trying to go for leadership building capability. And the next one is India is also trying to reach the goal of 5 of sustainable development goals. So Indian government has done decently well to promote women empowerment in the country. Right? At the same time, what we have to do? We have to ensure that the gender divide is going to be stopped at all the levels of society. How? By incorporating them ICT, that is information communication technology, by giving them and respecting their bodily autonomy. And we have to share, the main components have to share the responsibility within the household and equal participation in decision making. These are very vital for women empowerment. That is very required. Next one is the World Bank recently has said that in STEM courses, that is science, technology, engineering, and medicine, Indian women represent 43%. However, one irony is this: though they are present in good numbers in higher education, they are not turning out to be employees in that domain. Now, what are the challenges that these women are facing? First one is prevailing stereotype that these courses are only for men. That is the first thing. The second one is they have the double burden of homework as well as employment. So disproportionate allocation of domestic and care responsibilities to women. The third one is representation of men as leaders in STEM courses. This is also making them not to be present. And the fourth one is lack of proper public institutional mechanisms, that may be prevention of sexual harassment at workplaces or the requirement of the crash facilities at workplaces. This is all lacking. As a result, women are not coming or translating into work participation. So this higher education is not translating into empowerment or workforce because of all these loopholes. So what it required is we have to ensure that women should be empowered in decision making bodies, such as they have to be given freedom to decide how their sexual relations should be, how they have to initiate sexual relations, whether contraceptives should be used or not. They have to be given more autonomy in their health care, and they have to be free from all forms of violence and harassment. Now, it is critical to enable women and young girls to chart the trajectory of their personal and professional lives. Until and unless you do all these things, there cannot be progress or transformation of women from education to employment sector. Along with this, the most important thing is promoting them in the so-called sports, because sports is synonymous with promoting leadership, self-sufficiency, and teamwork, and it is going to build their confidence. And Government of India has done a very good thing. The recent national sports policy as well as inclusion programs for children from vulnerable communities have seen a remarkable success. So including them even in the sports domain is going to help them. It is going to boost the confidence of women. Redistributive care work. Domestic chores, caring for the loved ones, thriving families, communities, economies largely falls on women. So this is one thing that the woman is having. The more responsibility of women is the care work that they are relegated. Now, this is disproportionate care burden because the men counterparts are not sharing that work. As a result, women has this domestic care work. Now they have to balance these two things. Now, because of this homework that they have, because of the socio-cultural norms that relegated women to unpaid care work, they are losing the opportunities in the economic domain, outside domain. Hence, equal footing has to be given by men also. Hence, social protection and basic infrastructure, promoting share of domestic and care work between men and women, create more paid jobs in the care sector, and accelerate progress of the women and empowerment. So all these activities, multi-pronged activities, are very, very useful for employment, sports, for leadership, and digital innovations are very, very important. Hence, nurturing girls' leadership ability is our collective first step towards breaking down restrictive gender norms. This is very important. So recently we have been seeing good articles on women empowerment, women leadership. So this is also one thing where they have said what are the challenges that women in India are facing, what are the opportunities that they do have, and what we have to do. So all these things were given. You can download this from the description box, and you can just have a look at the color coding that I have made, and you can have this as a point of reading. Friction over formula. Why some states get more funds from the center? Now recently, states like Telangana and Tamil Nadu are accusing the central finance minister, saying that we are giving more and you are giving less for us. In this context, Nirmala Sitharaman has clearly answered that this cannot happen, that whatever the share that you are giving, if you want to get it back, then there cannot be a concept of nation and there cannot be a concept of development. Now the question is, who has decided this formula? We all know that the central tax collections are pulled in from states. So center collects its from taxes, center collects its taxes from the states. Now it is the responsibility of the center to collect certain portion of their net proceedings of tax to the states. Now how the states get their share? States get their share based on the Finance Commission recommendations. As per the 15th Finance Commission recommendation, the 15th Finance Commission is headed by N.K. Singh, by the way. Now what they have focused? They have focused on the notion to give based on horizontal devolution based on the needs, that is population, area, forest and ecology, equity, that is per capita income difference, and performance. So based on these three parameters, 14th or 15th Finance Commission has given the proportion sharing, and as per that sharing the states are getting. So what is important here? Finance Commission is important, how the sharing is done in the 15th Finance Commission, and it is unwise for the states was that we are contributing more, you have to give us more, because whatever the contribution that you are doing, a state is doing for the nation, it cannot claim that this is entirely because of that state's contribution for the center. So if there is some progress in the states, it is not necessarily it have to do only with the state efforts. Even the central government might have some efforts in the development of the states. As a result, it is your responsibility to give for the development of other states also. For example, look here, for every 1 rupee that they are giving, Bihar is getting 7 rupees, Uttar Pradesh is getting 2 rupees, whereas Maharashtra is getting 0.08, states like Andhra is getting 0.5, Telangana 0.43, 0.29, less than around 25 paise they are getting. These are getting around 7 rupees. That is the difference. So you can write this in the so-called Finance Commission recommendations also. Foreign lawyers firms can operate in India, says Bar Council of India. Only one thing. What is Bar Council of India? Bar Council of India is a statutory body governing the legal practice in India. Now it has framed the rules. Bar Council of India rules for registration of foreign lawyers and foreign law firms. So foreign lawyers can register here, they can operate here, and foreign law firms can also operate here. Why this is present? Because in a globalized environment, foreign law, diverse international law, and international arbitration matters are evolving. As a result, it gives exposures to the Indian lawyers as well as to the foreign lawyers in India to expand their business models or to expand their knowledge. So fly in and fly out model, they said you can come in. So BCI, just remember BCI is a statutory body governing legal practice in India. Land for job controversy, some relief for Lalu Prasad Yadav or Rabri Devi, they have got the bail. Governor cannot trigger the fall of government. This is what I said, right? A decision. Decision means disagreement. When there is some disagreement, what it is going to happen. Now, National Commission for BCs work with just 2 appointees, center tills Rajya Sabha. Now, what is this National Commission for BCs? National Commission for BCs was in the Article 338B. We all know that Article 338 is for National Council for SCs. A is for National Council for STs, National Commission for BCs is Article 338B. It was added through 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Now, as per National Commission 338 Article B, there should be 5 members. There will be chairman and 2 vice chairmen and 3 other members. So, chairman, vice chairperson and 3 members. Totally, it involves 5 members. Sorry, 1 vice chairperson and 3 members. So 5 members, but out of 5, only 2 are present. This is something like not having the full bench. 436 CAPF employees end life in 3 years, task force form. Now there are 2 things here. So Central Armed Police Force. What is Central Armed Police Force? The Central Armed Police Force includes CRPF, Border Security Force, CISF, ITPB, SSB, NSG and Assam Rifles. Where this can be used? Internal security, GS paper 3, you have various security forces, their agencies and their mandate. So Central Reserve Police Force is these many. Now the question is why this is in news. There is increasing number of cases of patricide and suicide. What is suicide? Taking away forcibly your life. Patricide is killing your brothers or siblings is called patricide. So report says 436 CAPF died by suicides in the past 3 years, and there is increasing tendency of patricides also here. Along with this, huge vacancies are going to be risen in CAPF because of the retirements, because of the resignations, promotions, death and rising of battalion, creation of new posts. All this is going to create some vacancies, and that vacancies might be filled very easily. Now recently, so this is a good news for CAPF that more vacancies will be created here, but the bad news is more number of suicides, patricides are happening here, even in the personal security personnel. Now Railways is developing one video surveillance system project. Now what is this? Every platform, railway platform in India is going to be under CCTV surveillance. Now for this, the Railway Ministry is utilizing the funds of Nirbhaya, that you have to remember. So the funds are getting from Nirbhaya fund, which is controlled by Ministry of Women and Child Development. But though they have released the funds, the installation of the CCTVs in the trains as well as on the platforms is going to be very late because of lack of security clearance. Current procedure for inclusion on STs list is adequate, says the government. Now what is this inclusion list of STs? Now we all know that Article 342 speaks about National Commission or Scheduled Tribes. 341 speaks about Scheduled Castes. 342A speaks about backward classes. Now who has to be a member of SCs? Who has to be a member of STs? Who has to be a member of BCs? How that is announced. Now, before announcing who will be a part of SCs, STs, what will be the procedure? First is the state legislature will notify it to the president or state union ministry. First thing is inclusion or exclusion will be from the state governments. From state governments, what they will do is state governments will identify the list and it will propose to the Union Ministry of Tribal Affairs. They will verify this. After verifying this, they send to Office Registrar General of India, and this will decide whether to include it or exclude. After the concurrence of these institutions, then they will be sent to the cabinet to improve or to bring in appropriate amendment to the Constitution Scheduled Tribes Order. So through this mechanism that is going to be formed. Now who set this mechanism? That first states has to go, then it has to go to Tribal Affairs Ministry, then it has to go Office of Registrar General, then it has to go to the Cabinet Committee, then the order has to be changed. It was set by Lokur Committee, very important. Already we have discussed this long back also. In the year 1965, Lokur Committee laid down the principles on which you have to add an SC or ST into this list. Right. So what are the criteria that Lokur has set? If you want any community to be in this list of scheduled tribes, they should have primitive traits such as distinctive culture, geographical isolation, shyness of contact with the community at large in the backward sections. However, recently these type of things might not be present. This is going to be very rigid because of expanding transportations. Geographical isolation might not be possible, distinct culture might not be possible, and shyness of contact might not be possible. Since they are very dogmatic, rigid and conceding, hence Lokur committee's recommendations has to be upgraded to suit to the present environment. That is what they are telling. Next one, NGOs received over 22,000 crores of foreign funds last year as per Union Home Ministry. Though there are stringent provisions of Foreign Contributions Regulations Act that will be governing the NGOs in the country, almost 22,000 crores were received by this NGOs in the year 21-22. This is what they have said. Just remember this for answer writing. Next one. House panel questions choose cut in delays or cut in the so-called Manrega wages. Now, this is important, guys. Eurasian otter raises hopes for Jammu Kashmir stream. Now, what is this Eurasian otter? Eurasian otter is classified as near threatened species and IUCN red list category. Now, it is a flagship species. Now, what is a flagship species? Flagship species is a species which indicates that just an indicator species, it indicates that whether a particular place is free from pollutants or not. So this is also a flagship species representing an area. Flagship is, it is representing that area, and the indicator species is indicating the environment, quality of environment. Now, so it is an indicator of high quality aquatic habitats. Its presence is encouraging for health of the Nehru stream. So they were present in Nehru stream. Where this Nehru stream is present? Nehru stream is a tributary of Chenab. This might be a question. This might be a question for prelims. So Eurasian otter, Nehru stream is a tributary of Chenab river. Next one. Myanmar officials in Bangladesh to fix Rohingya return plan. Some good news coming. Rohingyas are the Muslim minorities in Myanmar who has fled away from the Buddhist domination or Buddhist mass killings of these Rohingyas into Bangladesh. They came to all the way to India. So they are fixing a plan to return them to their home country. Saudi Arabia and Iran is going to start investments very soon. That is, Saudi Arabia is going to invest in Iran out of this deal that is going to happen. So some good news coming from the international arena. So new trade policy may be revised after 8 years from April 1st. So central government is thinking to revise the trade policy by April 1st. We have to wait and watch what that is going to be. So Pradhan Mantri Textile Scheme to be named soon. States identified for Pradhan Mantri Textile Scheme. What is this Pradhan Mantri Textile Scheme? PM Mitra. Pradhan Mantri Mega Integrated Textile Region AFFIARS. After all this, let's go to the text and context page. So again, some good news or some news on NGOs. Recently, just now we have seen rupees 22,000 crores were received by NGOs despite stringent FCRA norms. Now, about FCRA, why it is stringent? Look at this. Almost 2,000 NGOs licenses were cancelled by the government in the 3 years between 2018 to 2022. So this might be your answer writing. A very, very good article was written on women's reservation in politics. Now the question is, so what is the history behind women's reservation bill? How was reservation for women in local bodies were implemented? What are the oppositions for women reservation bills in the parliament and state legislature? So let's start with the history. The history can be traced back to the Indian national movement in the year 1931. People or women leaders like Begum Shah Nawaz and Sarojini Naidu asked for these type of reservations to seek any form of preferential treatment to violate the integrity of the universal demand of Indian women for absolute equality in political status. So initially it started that we should be given equal priority and we should not be relegated to the background. So to seek any form of preferential treatment would be to violate the integrity of the universal demand of Indian women for absolute equality of political status. So they are not asking that we should have a separate reservations, rather they are saying that everyone should be allowed and we should have the right to contest. This is the first demand. They never asked for separate reservations, but their demand is universal representation and universal equality. That is, throughout the country, we should have equal representation. The same thing was reflected in the Constitution Assembly debates also. What Constitution Assembly debate said? Renuka Roy, the freedom fighter, has said, we always held that when the men who have fought and struggled for the country's freedom came to power, the rights and liberties of women too would be guaranteed. So they were very sure that the political powers or the political people who are mostly constituted of men, they will give equal rights for women. So until Constitution Assembly debates or until 1960s, we can see that women were very confident on their known counterpart that they are going to give them equal share in the political representation. But that was a quagmire, or that was just, it has vanished. So as a result, in the year 1971, there was a committee known as Status of Women in India. This committee said that representation of women in political parties is declining. So by 1971, they realized that women representation is very poor. Particularly in the year 1988, there was one plan called National Perspective Plan. This plan has said that women has to be given reservations, and this led to the giving up of not less than 1/3 of the seats to be provided for panchayats to that women. So they have provided it. Along with this, they have provided chairpersons at all the levels of Panchayati Raj institutions and in urban local bodies. Also, they have got it, along with scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in proportion to their population. Some states today, in their local self-governments, they have almost 50% of reservations for women also, particularly states like Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Kerala and Bihar. They have 50% reservation. What is the Women's Reservation Bill? Now, what exactly is this bill? So, we have seen the history. Sarojini Naidu starting that time, Constitution Assembly debates, and the next one, 1971 report on status of women in India report 1971, and 1986 National Perspective Plan. All this, and then the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act that has given reservations for women. This is history. Now, what exactly is this bill that women have to be given reservations in Parliament as well as state legislative assemblies? The bill was proposed way back in 1996 as 81st Constitutional Amendment Act. What is the bill? It proposes to reserve 33% of the total seats for women. So this was introduced by Deve Gowda government. However, because of the collapse or because of the seizing of this government, the bill lapsed because of the dissolution of Lok Sabha. So 1996, post-independence, we started to have it. Then in the year 1998, Atal Bihari Vajpayee government also tried to get it, but it didn't get major support. This was followed by, in the year 2008, Manmohan Singh government also tried to introduce it, but the opposition parties didn't accept this. Particularly RJD and JDU are the opponents with SPs. Now there is one JDU leader who said, Sharad Yadav said that, infamously demanded to know how the short-haired women could represent our women. So this is some patriarchal tendency that these people are having. This is clearly a reflection. In the year 2014, BJP promised 33% of reservation for women in its manifesto. Repeated the same. So started in 1986, way back in Deve Gowda government, 1996, then 1998, then we have seen in 2008, again in 2014 and 2019 there were arguments. Now, what are the arguments for women to have this bill? First one is, if there is affirmative action, so it is very imperative for the condition of women. Two, if we want to better the conditions of women, they should have this reservation. Second one is, women are still underrepresented in political parties, particularly in state legislature and parliament. As a result, they have to be given equal representation. The third one is, it is very clear that after giving reservations for women in panchayats and municipalities, they have clearly showed that women is no less than any other part. They are not second to, say they are second to none as far as the reforms are considered, because they have successfully focused on overcoming some traditional problems of liquor consumptions, invested substantially in public goods such as drinking water, which they are facing, helped other women to express themselves better, reduced corruption, prioritized the nutrition outcomes, and changed the development agenda at the grassroots level. Particularly, there were two authors known as Esther Duflo and Raghav Chattopadhyay. They said that though they were in some cities or in some states, though women sarpanches are considered as rubber stamps of their husband, but still they have shown substantial improvement in the development of women or in those domains which are very, very essential. So Brinda Karat also says that this is very important because we want to change the powerful entrenched interests in Indian polity. Now, what is the arguments against it? Nivedita Menon says that one counter argument that people always say is that if women were given reservations, it will be against the principle of equality. Second one is women, unlike other castes like scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, doesn't represent a homogeneous community. What do you mean? Again, in the women category also, you have different castes, different subcastes, different economical status people. How can you give reservations to them altogether, just like your SCs and STs? The third says is their interests cannot be isolated from other socio-economic and political strata. The moment you are giving reservations for SCs and STs, you are also focusing on the socio-economic and political strata of women in that. The fourth one that they say is if you are restricting or giving women this type of things, then you are restricting the choice of voters to contest the elections. Again, this is fourth thing. In order to overcome this problem, some people proposed dual member constituencies. Dual member constituencies means in a constituency, both a men and women representative will be there. However, they said that even if this type of structure is present, women will be relegated to the background because the men counterpart will take more share than the women, and women reservation bill is going to be watered down. Now, the next position that they say is political parties. It is better for the political parties to field women. However, even if they are fielding, they are given second position. So some notions also says that if you are giving women this power, obviously they will go against the ideal family norms. However, this is the time to give some reservations for women, at least 33% of reservations, if not 50%, to ensure that their representation is there. So how many women are there in the Indian Parliament so far? So far, there is only 14% of Indian members in Indian Parliament are present. Now, this is lower than Nepal, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, which is a very dismal record. Hence, women has to be given reservations. So this is a must read. So if you want me to prioritize the articles today, this is the first article that everyone has to read before going into the rest of the articles. This is their news for today. Thanks for joining, guys. Have a great day. See you all.